Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh, and ahead of the Still Voices Film Festival, I'm chatting with three really talented animators about the really impressive short films. Thank you guys so much for coming to chat with us. I can maybe call you out and get you guys to say your name and a little bit about your film, just at the very beginning.
Yeah, I'm Cliona. I'm an animator and director from Dublin. And I studied in Dublin. I'm still in Dublin, but I made my last film in the Midlands in Birr as part of the offline animation residency.
And can you just tell me a little bit about maybe the log line or your elevator pitch?
Yeah, so it's basically follows the story of a father who desperately is trying to save his son, but the more he tries, the further he basically gets from what he wants, and he just almost ruins everything for himself.
And it's gorgeous. It's so stylish as well. It's a beautiful piece. Victor, coming all the way from Switzerland, are you in?
Yes, I'm Victor Jaquier. I'm from Switzerland, but currently I'm living in Paris. And my movie was produced and done in Switzerland. And it's an adaptation of a traditional Swiss tale that is quite unknown even in Switzerland. And it's about, in the Middle Age period of time, it's about a winemaker who captured death in a barrel, and he has to face the consequences of breaking the natural order of things.
Yeah, and it's quite striking. The commentary as well that gets in there, where you're like actually like in a very relevant subtext of the hoarding of wealth, I think as well. But and plague. So that's the themes could not be more relevant, even though it's set in the Middle Ages.
Yes. It was strange to do this, to finish this movie during COVID, because I started 7 years ago, before having all the financing and doing the first research for the art direction. So it was like fiction and our current times blending together when I was finishing the movie. So it was very strange.
God, and Mary.
Yeah, so my name is Mary Smyth, and I'm from Longford, so not far from the festival. And my film is Components of Recovery. It's an animated documentary about the internal experience of living with addiction and moving toward recovery. So it's the second research film as part of my PhD study, looking at how addiction and recovery are represented in animation.
And that is very interesting. So you worked with a workshop of focus groups to come up with the subject matter?
Yeah, no, back in 2019, I held 3 focus groups with the recurrent residents in Ashery Céimella, which is a recovery centre down in Waterford, and then came back to the studio and tried to figure out some themes that we're developing in the transcripts, and then returned to animation and then try to share a little of what they had shared with me, because there was a lot.
And it's very poignant, and you have these beautiful the very beautiful performances, even the very short but truthful, and then this very kind of visceral and textured animation, which really works very well, because what you're saying is there's a breakdown, there's like a procedure to it, which is really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely processes, I suppose, and it's this mechanical landscape, and it's looking at that kind of inner breakdown, but then once you kind of hit the recovery section, is kind of split into 2 parts, how, I suppose things can start connecting again. But recovery isn't like, it's not an end goal, it's a process, which was a huge thing that they would have emphasized, is that there's the hard work involved. And so I suppose I was trying to show it's kind of an exploration of animation processes as well, that's kind of looking at how can you push the different types of animation to represent the things that they were experiencing as well. So there was even this part of a phenakistoscope, which is like one of the earliest widespread animation devices, and that was used to kind of show the spiraling escalation nature of addiction. So yeah.
Cool. And I'm going to stick with you, Merrick, and you've half answered the question, but what drew you to this subject matter? You and then I'm going to ask everyone else how you developed it. So you've kind of already covered that a little bit, but what drew you to the subject matter and what made you choose that?
Yeah, it was funny. It kind of started off as I suppose I'm interested in children's animation, which is funny. But I kind of started off with that I was looking at, how children that are living with addiction, how could animation, I suppose, teach or help them explore different ways. But then I got access to the treatment center, and they're all adults, and it just changed the whole direction of the project. For the better, I think. But it's not a direction I would have thought I was going. But definitely now I can see myself heading more kind of animated documentary in future. So it's changed it.
Yeah, you don't see it too much, so it's a very interesting form to explore that.
Yeah, I know, and there's definitely over, I suppose, in Europe and the UK, that there's big pockets of it, of people. It was a whole world once I kind of figured out that a lot of people do this. Let's do animation documentaries, and it's just fascinating.
So, Victor, can you tell me a little bit about yours? You kind of mentioned as well, this is a kind of classic story, but what drew you to it, and what was your beginning processes?
Yeah, it's a classic story. It's an existing Swiss fairy tale, and it's a very short one. But I expanded it into a 20-minute story, and it has lots of elements that were very interesting for me, because it talks about Switzerland and the mountains and the vineyards and all those stuff I've been growing up with, and it also talks about death. And what I like in this story is that it's not a vision of death that is like some demon or some evil entity, but it's more man that has good intentions, but while he tries to find ways to go against death, he's condemning himself. And I was interested by this possibility to have a story where death is not that that is almost beautiful. And even in the music, I try to set a mood where the music is beautiful when we discover death, even if it's quite scary, but at the same time beautiful. So that was something I was interested about.
Yeah, and you do. It's a very it's sort of it's the first time I've ever seen kind of death as a woman, or like that I've registered that I've seen it, and like in a way you kind of stressed like this is the natural order of things. There's mercy in some instances of it, but yet then it twists. I don't want to give too much away because it's a beautiful narrative, but it is a very kind of unique perspective on it. Is that something that you would look at a lot as a writer yourself? Would they be the themes that you find goes into the rest of your work?
The theme, yes, this has some connections with other themes in my work. Well, obviously, I'm into kind of gothic imagery, so death is always everywhere. But I've been thinking about why I was into this story, and there are also other things, I guess, like I have anxiety, and sometimes I have anxiety attacks during my sleep, and I was not very aware of it myself, but the anxiety attacks I can or people that have anxiety attacks during night are very similar to the final part of the movie, where it's like a big burst of you do something, you create something, but when it turns into a nightmare, the proportions are huge, and that was something I was interested in showing in the movie. But yeah, it's the last part of the movie where things are completely out of control, and I was interested in doing it with an animation movie because it would have been impossible with live action, because it's my first animation. I'm initially from live action movies, so it was also a big step for me to do a new technique. So I had really to start from zero again.
And you create a really beautiful world, and I love the, like, your playfulness with the grotesque. Like it's a very beautiful watch as well. The movement, the structure of it, like, it's gorgeous. Cliona, just tell me a little bit about the subject matter, how you found it and how you developed it.
Yeah, for me, I always tend to start making films trying to convey a feeling or an atmosphere. So I wouldn't say it's like directly related. It's more like the abstract idea of like not having control, or yeah, like the main character trying to achieve something. It's actually the trying that causes you to fail at achieving it. And yeah, just getting that feeling into a movie. And I mean, yeah, all of my films have no dialogue, and so music is really important to try and get that. So I definitely I've like worked with the same composer with all my work. So even when I was like storyboarding the music, I would like listen to the music, which some tracks were already made, and kind of let that inform what was going to happen in the story.
Gorgeous. So I actually want to talk to you then about the processes of information. So Cliona, I'll stay with you and then we'll go back through it. But you were saying that you'd storyboard it, you work with your composer. Like, how does this go from the page to that? So you'd yourself storyboard it. You'd have a strong idea of visuals, or would you be playing around as you're putting it together? Like, just take me through the steps.
Yeah, I mean, it always starts with a character. Like, I guess I was drawing the father. It was really just like a man in like surgical attire for a while, and I wasn't sure, but I liked the idea of something medical. And again, this was before COVID, so it was kind of foreign to see people wearing medical masks, and then it became reality while I was making it. But yeah, that idea of like hospitals and like the coldness, and I kind of decided early, okay, green makes sense as a color, because the whole film is green. And yeah, soon enough, I basically had these father and son characters, and it was kind of like, I mean, I tend to let things that I'm watching or seeing at the time influence it as well. So it came very organically, just like, okay, well, what's wrong with this guy? How can this father help him? Or like, why would what would drive him to do something that I guess not everybody would do, which is like illegal organ trading. So just kind of letting myself add things that like interest me and things I'd like to draw, because ultimately with animation, I'm going to be drawing it for like a year. And I was lucky that, yeah, the idea was very abstract. I kind of just knew it was going to be about a father-son relationship and kind of set in this medical setting. And I applied with that abstract idea to the residency. And they very much like gave me the freedom to just figure it out as I went. And yeah, I would have storyboarded it first to music and showed it to lots of people. Like, even though I made the film mostly alone, I have like a core group of people who I show to, and I like their work, who I get their feedback to make sure it makes some sort of sense. And yeah, then just animating it and finishing it.
And it sounds like you were saying that that's a very organic thing. Like, so it's not super duper structured before you go in. Did anything change? Did you kind of, take put a toe in one pond and go, that's not for me. Actually, let's take it this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, the process of this film came out of me trying to do the opposite of what I did with my last film, which was my last film I made with a group of people. And it was basically like a rom-com, silent again, but very like happy pastel colors. And like, I tend to like pastel colors, and I knew, I guess because I was in the residency and I had more time to myself, I wasn't restricted by having to follow this pipeline where, in animation production, you have to make decisions and stick to them because it's going to affect loads of other people. But I could essentially change my mind the whole way through, which is a good thing and a really bad thing. I think I spent about like 4 months getting the story right. And after that, I didn't change anything crazy. But I would say I purposely didn't try to figure everything out at the start, so that there were always bits where I was like, I don't know what that's going to be exactly. So I can decide in like 3 months' time when I'm doing it. And yeah, I will say, in me trying to do the opposite, let's say, of what I usually do, I came full circle and ended up realizing like, oh no, I actually do like pastel colors and I just prefer that. So I would just follow my instincts and went back to like, everything is pastel green mostly. And I don't know, but maybe I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't start somewhere else.
Oh yeah. I had this question for you about the music, Cliona. What was the process and the collaboration with the people who have been creating the music, because it's so important, the mood with the music and the sound design also. Did you had a really precise idea in mind, or was it more
Yeah, so like the composer, I've luckily worked with the same composer for a few years, and we just got like randomly paired up based on, I don't know if you work the same way, both of you, but I would usually take existing songs that I like or that fit the mood of the film, and I would put them in the animatic really early to kind of, I guess, as like a reference. But then the trouble is you get really attached and then you have to get someone else to remake it. And sometimes, it's not as good as you think. So with this, I had done that process before with the composer, but this time I was like, okay, what if I just ask my composer to send me stuff when I'm starting? And I used existing songs that she had written while I was storyboarding. I mean, I hacked them up to pieces and I like made it fit my film. But I knew from the start, I was like, okay, you send me something that you made, like not knowing what I want you to make. And then I mixed that with other references. And then I handed it all back to her and was like, okay, remix this for the film. So that was really nice because it was, I guess, it was coming from like an existing place as well, where she had these tracks that, I mean, they fit the mood of the film already that I was thinking of, but it really helped to inform everything else.
Yeah, because it really kind of like, it has such a fabulous energy as well.
Yeah, and then she suggested a friend to do the sound design, and I had never worked with a sound designer before, that I feel like made it next level, because sometimes when the music is such a focus, it can feel kind of like a music video if there's no sound design. So the sound design really helped like root it in the real world.
Brilliant. Okay, so back to our processes question, Victor. Tell me a little bit about how you work on getting the animation onto the screen, because yours had quite a few people behind it.
Oh, yes, I've been working with a big team of animators. I was doing the background layouts and the character layouts. So I'm myself, I'm not an animator, so I really had to work with a big team. And it was during we started before COVID, but we were still working during COVID. So lots of things that I have to write down or record some clips with my cell phone. And yeah, it was like running a marathon, because I had to create all those layouts for a big team. So for 1 year, I was always doing layouts day and night, but I really enjoyed it.
And did anything change during that process? Like, was there any hiccups, or did anything kind of organically, you were driven in a different direction? Like, I presume when you're kind of manning that, people you need to know pretty rigidly ahead of time, or can you bounce off one another?
It would have been nice maybe to have surprises, but it was a situation where I was not really able to afford surprises, because there was lots of people working on it, and we had a certain amount of money on a certain period of time. So now everything was very controlled, and I had also CG animated sequences that were just here to be references, because I use a lot of lens distortion effects. Like I was choosing lenses in a live action movie, so I don't want the animators to spend a lot of time thinking about the lens distortion. So I do those little mock-ups in Blender, and I give them the references. So everything had to be very, very controlled, so we were not slowed down by changes.
And what made you go from live action to animation? What was was it something that you always were drawn to and now had the opportunity, or?
Yeah, I think that I was always drawn to animation, and I do illustrations. So for me, it was a very natural process to go to animation. And also, I have a very hard time to write a story that are not involving many sets, many characters, fantasy world. So it was very logical for me to go to animation.
And Mary, yourself, how do you go to, like, what's your process? So I know you were developing your script. How do you get that physically on the screen?
Well, I suppose this one was a little bit different. And I usually do 2D animation with a bit of mixed media. Sometimes I build sets and then I animate into it with characters. But for this, it really went with the idea of okay, stop motion is representing the physical hard work and the physical changes that you have to do to achieve recovery, and that was what kind of set it into stop motion. Yeah, and then I suppose even there was a rough maybe beginning, middle, end, and I knew there was going to be a contrast between the addiction and the recovery section, even with music as well, and the sound effects. But yeah, no, it was just a bit more experimental, I suppose. When you're studying, you can you can afford to do that a little bit. So there was a lot of even just working in a studio for down in Limerick School of Art and Design. They actually let me use the studio space there, and myself and the technician were there with smoke machines and light machines and just playing for a couple of days. So I had hours of footage, and then it was like, right, what are the things that best represent themes? So I had to go back to the themes again and be like, right, what shows these? And then there was, of course, some motifs were in my head already, like the like, again, that kind of spiraling disc and the stop motion bits, and there was some compositions that were in my head, but bar that, it was fairly fun, a different process.
Sounds really interesting. And actually, because you all have sort of touched on this a little bit, but it's quite interesting. You seem to have come from very, very different paths. I was just wondering, Mary, just while we're still with you, like, can you just tell me a little bit about where you've come from and how you've ended up in animation?
Yeah, so I went to college in Limerick School of Art and Design, and they do the general course where you kind of do a little taster of different disciplines. So I always kind of knew it was going to be some sort of creative field. But I suppose I chose animation then because, again, yeah, if I can do that mixed media approach, that I can kind of do painting, or I can do set design, or I can do, yeah, stories. There's all these different aspects to it. So that's kind of why I chose that. Now, ending up doing the PhD was a surprise to myself as well, in a way. I started off with a master's and then I transferred. So I only handed in the thesis, the final with corrections and stuff, only about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, so I'm working in Roscommon now.
Wow. So an academic path. So that's probably not the most common way in, but it's a interesting thing. Yeah, because you're kind of doing the concepts as well. Like you're like a lot of theory behind yeah, the storytelling and the structure and stuff, and putting it to good use in a different way. So it's very interesting. And Cliona?
Yeah, I went to IDT in Dunleary, and for some reason I just knew I always wanted to do animation, but I don't think I knew what animation was. Like, the reason I thought I wanted to do it, I'm so lucky that actually I did like it when I didn't know what it was. I guess I just like drawing, and through studying it, I guess they show you like Eastern European films and Caroline Leaf and sand animation, and you're just like, oh my god, all I knew was Disney. And now it's so much bigger than that. So I think they really encouraged us to make our own films as well in the course that I did, because I don't know, some courses are focused, like, which is great, on getting people into the industry and people specializing, but at the same time, like, it's nice to have that time to just be free, like Mary said, where you can just do whatever you want and make a film. It doesn't have to be like, doesn't have to have everything in it. You can do it smartly and say, oh, I don't like doing backgrounds, so I'm not going to have any backgrounds in it, that sort of thing. And I definitely still do that, where I just avoid what I don't like and I just focus on the things I do like and put that in my films.
And Victor, you had mentioned as well, you had come from the live action, and you were drawn to animation for that reason. But career-wise, what was it that, like, what's been your path? So, like, how did you get here career-wise? Because again, like, I presume to have a project of that scope and to have that much funding behind it, you have to have like a proven track record. You have to go ideas, a good producer. Like, that all takes so much time to carve out. Can you just give me like a quick blow by blow?
To move from live action to animation, I don't think that it's a very smart move, No, based on only reason, it's not a smart move, because you have so much thing to learn again, and you have to prove again from scratch that you will be able to create something good with the money that people will give you. So I was really driven by a passion of animation rather than a reason and career choice. And I noticed it like some years after I decided to do this animation. I was like, maybe I chose a path that is really difficult to change the technique, but and it took 7 years to complete this movie. But I really don't regret it, because now I'm I feel that I've been able to really do the vision I wanted to do, but yeah, it took a lot of time.
Yeah, to get that level of funding over there, like I don't know what it's like compared to here. Here we have schemes and they don't tend to overlap. So like, and I like I don't know if I'm right like that, but like you can, if you're a producer, work from one or another, but like you're generally in one of the kind of like houses, you know, like one of the kind of animation houses, and they'd be known for things, and maybe the producers there would have worked in live action before, but like they'd be known to be like animation producers, and it's a very different system, and like the money is different. And again, like that, like in Ireland we have great production houses, and we have like a really good, like we place world, like it's a brilliant industry, like it would be a great part of the film industry to get into, but I kind of think like you do tend to veer to one or the other here. So I'm just curious to like a little bit about how the funding works. Like, can you just, you know, go in with your same producer that you work with on live action and process it that way, or do you have to like go out and make a whole new network?
No, in Switzerland, it's a very small industry. There is no mainstream Swiss cinema, so it's really small production companies, and I've been able to work with the same producer. The producer had produced my previous live action short film, and I was able to work 7 years on it because in the beginning we had a development fund, and so I had 6 months where I was able to work on it, and then we had there was no time limit to move from the development fund to the production, but it took a lot of time to gather all the fund for the beginning of the production, and then the production it was 2 years in the making. 1 year for the animation, and the second year it was post-production, the compositing, and me drawing all the backgrounds with watercolor.
Wow. God, that's some amount of time. Do you feel and actually I'll go around to everybody else, but that this has opened doors for you to get your next project across the line? Because it's kind of like, it's 2001, so it's been out, it's been seen now, you know, like by people. Is this kind of like a taster for your feature that's animated, or like what's your plan?
Yeah, it's been opening door for me because now I really have a movie that can show what I'm able to do. It will be distributed in the US also, so I guess that the film will have a second life with a lot of visibility. And right now I could move to a feature format, I guess, but now I'm also working on another short animated film because those projects are so long to give birth to that I prefer to have a lot of small project and some big project in the making, rather than just sticking to one project, and if it doesn't work, you have nothing else to do. So I have many things in the making.
Yeah, and a project like that as well. So I presume it's state funded. I presume it's government
Yeah.
money. Yeah, because that, like, we'd have a scheme frameworks as well. But then I think to get a feature across the line, you'd probably get state money, but you'd have to get like co-financers and co-European financiers, because I think Ireland is probably too small to just to maybe, I don't know. I'm not an animation producer, but like a lot of the big ones.
Can I ask you, Victor, did all the money come from Switzerland? Because you said you're in France now.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we were not able to have money from France, so we had a gap that we've been funding with crowdfunding. So
Okay.
and we were able to have the whole budget with crowdfunding, but the big majority of the funding was from Switzerland.
Great.
Nice.
And does that come with any caveats or anything like that? Was there any you know, like with the funding, do you kind of have to take notes or do anything like that, or is it like just given to you, do you know, and you as the artist get to decide? Like, how would it work?
Oh, you mean regarding something like the art, the final cut or thing like that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the funding, I had to do some changes because they had the institution, they had some things were not okay for them in my vision of the story, for example. And it was very good points because in the beginning, in the script, there was a voiceover, and it was too obvious, to do a fairy tale with a voiceover when there is something that you could show things with images and visual poetry, and I was kind of missing it because of this constant voiceover. So it was great that they asked me to remove it, and I had to present a new version of the animatic with more visual narrative solutions that were more interesting than my first version.
And actually, Mary, the same to you. Has this opened any doors? Has this kind of led on to anything or any other opportunities? Or what's your next project maybe that you're working on as well?
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm full-time working now.
Because I heard PhDs are hard.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and the fact that I suppose it takes so long too. So I've only just finished it. So I think I'm gonna let it settle. And what's nice is, again, yeah, what Victor was saying, that the films kind of have their next life, I suppose. Once you finish it, it's kind of doing a little bit of a route now, because there was 2 films as part of the research. So Components of Recovery is the second one. There was also The Click, which will be in Still Voices too. So the 2 of them are kind of going around a few film festivals. So I'm just gonna let them do their bit, and then I'll start thinking the next thing. I have 2 book illustration jobs, so I do a bit of everything. It'll keep me busy.
A few nickers, sure, that's our bread and
Our
butter.
life. I'm not sure what's next.
And Cliona?
Pretty much as soon as I finished the film, I started working as a director for Studio Mala. They're an Irish animation company. So I've been like assistant directing a short there, like what's the word? I guess like animation for hire. So we're making a short, which, yeah, that was amazing, just to work with a team and like a big budget. So that's just finishing now. And then I'm not sure what's next. Probably take a break and yeah, come up with ideas the next film.
And like that as well, does working kind of in the area give you inspiration and knowledge? Is it good for building your network? What would, like, and I presume it's just project to project that they'd hire staff on to come in for things?
Yeah, like it's usually I've gone back and forth between making something for myself and then doing studio work or freelance work. But it all kind of ties together, because I mean, the films that I make, they're all hand drawn, and I use TV Paint. And I mean, Cartoon Saloon are the main company, I guess, that use TV Paint in Ireland, but Studio Mala also do. So it's nice to be able to work on what's the word? I guess funded projects, client projects, using TV Paint and using the hand-drawn animation process, because it's like every day I'm going through the same process I would for my own films, but with like a way bigger team and all these people who've specialized and are way better at everything than you are. So yeah, you learn a lot. And I mean, working with all these producers, it means if I have a project, I guess I know people that I can ask to help.
Brilliant. So that would be like for frameworks, or if you have any other ideas that you can pitch to people. And how open are houses like that to, like, just say people applying for jobs? Like if you were just graduating from college with, like maybe one decent short film that you did as a project, like what would you recommend people do maybe to try and get work and paid work?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you have a short film that you've made, just put it out there, because yeah, I've been very lucky that most of the jobs I've gotten were from people seeing the short that I made, like the first short I made in college. And that's literally it. I just, people say, oh, I saw it somewhere, or now that we can like go to festivals and try and meet people as well, because they'll remember you. Because I think like if you can show you've made something, they might not know you, but that thing is proof that you can do it, which is nice. I think in the animation industry, a lot of it is put on like the show reel rather than the degree or like the grades you got. I mean, I'm sure obviously that's important, but if they like your work and you're a nice person, then they'll ask you to work with them, I guess.
That's great. No, that's really interesting. And do you have any kind of feature ideas that you're looking for funding for, or anything like that? Or are you kind of prepping?
I don't know. I really like short films. I guess like Victor said, it's even a short film is going to take years. So it would be nice to make a longer short. I mean, this short is the longest I've made. But if I was making a feature, I'd probably build up to it. And it wouldn't be for a while. I think you probably need the right idea as well to sustain over an hour of watching. But never say never.
Never say never.
I had something like a technical question for Mary. When I saw your movie, I noticed that the introduction shots were all with a kind of handheld camera effect, and I was wondering why how you would manage to animate things in pixelation with this kind of handheld effect. So how do you do it? Is the camera animated on some kind of machine, or is it done more in a different way?
So we use Dragon Frame and a slider. So the keyframes for some of the shots, that the camera is actually moving maybe away or moving, panning, while I'm actually stop motioning. So every frame the camera is also moving just slightly. And I suppose I did it sometimes to work with some of the other shots that were handheld, because some of them are handheld. It's just that you kind of lower the frame rate a little bit or change the frame rate to just kind of help it, because sometimes it can be very smooth with the slider. But yeah, that's how it works. Great. I'm going to invest in one myself because it was great.
And where did you do your PhD? I didn't even know that you could do a practical PhD for animation.
There isn't really.
Okay.
But you can. I suppose what I did with mine was it was a master's, and then I transferred, and you can do practice-based animations, and I suppose I picked animation as my practice. So but I did it down in Clonmel, part of LIT, so I suppose it's part of the Technical University of the Shannon now. So down in Clonmel, but I haven't been down there in about 2 years because of COVID and that. So it's been online for a lot. But postgraduate stuff is kind of online. You're on your own for a lot of it as well, you and your supervisor. So it's a different it's kind of like freelancing, I suppose. And I was able to do some freelance work as it went on too, because as you say, it's nice to have different projects to kind of jump back in, do something else, maybe do a storyboard for something else, and then come back into it.
Okay, so these beautiful films will be available to watch at the Still Voices Film Festival from the 9th to the 13th of November. So we'll see you down there for a few glasses of wine, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for chatting with us. That was great. The 2022 Still Voices Film Festival takes place in Ballyman from the 9th to the 13th of November. So make sure to take a look at the programme at stillvoicesfilmfestival.com.